everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to EduMont. Welcome to your session here today where we're talking about CPA and we're talking about all the key considerations that you should know, that you should think about before you actually enroll in the CPA course. Now, before I begin today's session, I'd like to quickly begin by introducing everybody in my team who is associated in producing this webinar. So, firstly, I'm joined by Himanshu on the host PC right behind the camera, and he's going to help us run through the presentation. He's in charge of the hardware, making sure everything looks good on screen and making sure it works flawlessly. We're also joined by two panelists. I have Saurabh and I have Mohit. Both of them are our senior most program advisors, and both of them are head of departments. Mohit heads the advisors division, which is our counseling division, and Saurabh heads the operations division. So that's the after sale division. So both between the two of these, I think they have the ability to answer pretty much everything that you may want to need to ask or that you may want to know in the chat. So feel free to do that. Throughout this session, if you have any questions, anything you want to ask, put it in the chat. With that being said, you can also ask me questions directly if you want, and you can do that by raising hand. So there's an option in Zoom, ऐसे हाँ hand raise हो जाता है. There's an option in Zoom जिससे आप hand raise कर सकते हो. Once you do that, Himanshu knows you want to talk. So in the Q&A session, that's what this is about. In the Q&A session, you raise hand, he'll allow you to talk, and then we can talk as if we're talking on a cell phone. So I'll be able to hear you, you'll be able to hear me. With that being said, my name is Rohan Chopra. I'm a CPA, a CMA. I recently became a TEDx speaker, which you probably saw in the video before. And more importantly, I'm going to be your primary CPA faculty, because I'm going to personally teach 60% of the content that's in the 4 subjects. With that being said, Himanshu, I also want to find out, who are you guys? You're not enjoying a Saturday in a usual way, maybe sleeping or watching a movie. Instead, you're sitting here taking time for your career. You're a serious candidate, and I want to find out who you are. Himanshu, there's a poll. Release karte hain yaar. Guys, this is just basic. I just want to know about your education. Nothing too personal. So please fill it in real quick and then we'll move ahead. Do we have our results? 77%. 77% people have voted. बाकी लोग भी कर दो यार. आपके लिए वेट कर रहे हैं सब. Let's give it 5 more seconds, Himanshu. That's plenty of time. Then let's just end it. Done? Yeah. Okay. Let me see the results. There we are. Of the people that did vote, and not everybody voted, but of the people that did vote, commerce में 88% लोग 12th में थे, and science is 13%. So did that change when it came to graduation? Yeah, it did drastically. In fact, when it came to graduation, 100% of the people that voted are from actually a commerce background, which is good, very good. And then lastly, I'm talking about what is your highest qualification. That actually is where we water down, what the audience is like today. So I am currently studying. ऐसे कम लोग हैं, 13% of the audience today are currently studying. मतलब graduation complete कर रहे हैं अभी. Most of the people actually have a post grad. Graduation जो है 25% लोगों ने करी है. 50% of the voting audience has a master's or a post grad. And then 13% of the audience, again, small number, have a professional designation like a CA or a CS or an ICW. तो आप सब लोगों से मैं ये सवाल क्यों पूछ रहा था? I'll tell you. People who are currently studying and people who've done their graduation are sort of in a similar boat. आप लोग ये सोच रहे हो इस समय कि should we do that job or should we finish our study first and then get a job? एंड जो बाकी लोग हैं जिन्होंने मास्टर्स कर लिए, पोस्ट ग्रेड कर लिए, प्रोफेशनल डेजिग्नेशन है जिनके पास, आप भी एक बोट में हो जिसमें आप ये सोच रहे हो ऑब्वियसली यू आर वर्किंग, यू आर हाईली क्वालिफाइड, यू हैव टू बी, बट नाउ यू आर थिंकिंग इज CPA समथिंग दैट आई कैन डू अलॉन्ग विद माई जॉब एंड विल इट एड वैल्यू टू माई करियर? I'm going to try and answer both of these categories of questions in this session. Speaking of which, band karte hain and let's move straight into the session. Let's get into the presentation. But guys, this is not going to be a boring presentation, okay? So I'm going to be there in it, and it's not going to be कि मैं किसी छोटे डब्बे में चला जाऊंगा. I'll be able to interact with things in the session. So that's me here. And Himanshu can move me around. He can make me bigger, smaller, whatever he wants. अब मैं हिमांशु के हाथों में हूँ. With that being said, Manshu, let's move to the first slide. Let's talk about the first basic question. What is CPA? CPA क्या होता है? So, I'm sure you've heard this online. Just like you've got CA in India, you have CPA in the US. सुना होगा, ऑनलाइन सुना होगा, किसी दोस्त से सुना होगा, somebody would have told you. This is a common definition. Tell me in the chat if this is not the case. Or tell me in the chat कि हाँ सुना है. Yes, this is what we've heard. I want to tell you a fun fact. Okay. 40% of my existing class, जो आज सुबह में पढ़ा के आया हूँ, 40% of those are qualified CAs. उन्होंने CA कर ली अपनी. अगर सीए करने के बाद भी इतनी भारी मात्रा में लोग सीपीए कर रहे हैं, देयर हैज टू बी समथिंग डिफरेंट अबाउट इट. देयर हैज टू बी अ डिफरेंस इन द स्कोप बिटवीन सीए एंड सीएस एंड सॉरी सीपीए. देयर हैज टू बी अ डिफरेंस, राइट? So let me try and explain that difference to you, and let me tell you why it makes sense. Okay, firstly, let's talk about what's common. So you've got India mein CA because India mein you've got a requirement for an audit. If you're a private entity and you've crossed 1 crore in revenue, you need to be audited. And if you're a public entity, then as per SEBI rules, you have to be audited and you have to submit your audited financial statements back to SEBI. इसी तरह ना US में भी rules है, and US में भी there is SEC just like SEBI is in India. Securities Exchange Commission. SEC भी यही कहता है, if you're a publicly listed company on American soil, then you need to get yourself audited. So auditing is a reason why you need to have this sort of a designation both in India and the US. But just like in India and US, सिर्फ auditing पे हम रुकते नहीं हैं, Vanshu. We also move ahead. We also do accounting and reporting or planning and analysis of your finances, right? So FP&A and accounting and reporting, very common areas. We also do tax work. So US में US entities के एंगल से, American authorities के एंगल से, और इंडिया में Indian taxation के एंगल से. We also do work for consulting purposes. Because if you're running a business, be it small or large, you will have certain questions. You will want to find out from somebody who understands finance, yeah, should I raise more debt? Should I raise more equity? Should I take my company public? Is that a sensible thing to do? Should I acquire this other business that's my competitor, and at what valuation? Valuing a business in itself is a huge point of consultation. So there's a ton of things that you might want to ask your local accountant, be it a CA or a CPA, right? Now, with that being said, the difference in scope between the two qualifications is this. When we talk about getting listed on American soil, we're talking about two stock exchanges. Number one is NASDAQ, which is a mid-sized stock exchange. It's sort of like India ka stock exchange, same sort of size. It's not very large. Next up is NYSE, New York Stock Exchange, which is the world's largest stock exchange. Now think about it. If you wanted to get your company to go public in India, so is it an easy task? I mean, you and I would both agree that there are actually tens of hoops that have to be cleared. कई hurdles हैं जिनको पार करना पड़ता है. You have to have 10 years of history. You have to have a certain amount of profits. Profitability is also important. And then you have to go through the huge legal paperwork and the costs of underwriting and floating your own IPO. It's not easy. It takes a lot. Now imagine what would be the level of difficulty for the world's largest stock exchange. What would it take a company to get their company's stock or their securities listed on NYSE? And now think about what are these companies, these brands that are able to actually get it done. और ये जितनी बड़ी companies हैं, and across the globe, think about any major brand that you know is a global brand is listed on NYSE. 99% of them are. And ये जो global brands हैं, they don't have a choice. For them, having a CPA is a necessity, a legal requirement. Either be it in their auditing or their accounting department or their planning department or their tax department or consulting purpose, whatever it may be, they need a CPA. Let's move on to the next slide, Vanshu. Let's also talk about the fact that this scope is actually growing in India. But before I get to what's growing in India, let me actually talk about अभी आज की तारीख में US में there is a problem going on. And that problem is the shortage of accountants, qualified CPAs and CMAs. जो उनकी accounting qualification है basically, उसके लोग कम पढ़ रहे हैं. आप कहोगे ये कैसे हो सकता है यार? I'll tell you. 75% of the managerial staff working at Big Four and Big Six companies and accounting companies, public accounting companies in the US is actually from the baby boomer generation, which is our parents. So they're actually aging towards their retirement real quick. And all of them are expected to fully retire in about 15 years or 14 years now, क्योंकि एक साल पुरानी खबर है ये. So 14 years. And with that being said, what is accelerating the problem is 60% of these managers are actually going to retire within the next 5 years. So you see, it's accelerating. अब ये एक चीज है कि लोग रिटायर होके जा रहे हैं. The other problem is you can't actually replace a manager who's got 25 years of work experience with a boy who became a CPA recently and is 25 years of age. Right? You can't do that. इसकी उम्र जितनी उतना उसको एक्सपीरियंस हो चुका है काम करते हुए. You can't replace the two. So that leaves a huge hole, and that's happening. And there's a shortage. Manshu, अब इस shortage का solution क्या निकाला? Of course, they're trying to induce more people to become CPAs, but like I told you, that's not going to be the only thing that requires to be done. That is required to be done to fill the shortage, because you can't replace a fresher with an experienced individual who's retiring. Now, with that being said, the answer is actually fairly simple: outsource. Right? It's not even new. ये already बहुत पुरानी term है. इंडिया में तो ये सदियों से चला आ रहा है. अब ऐसा लगता है it's at least a decade old in India, or 2 decades old probably. And with that being said, for us it's not new, for them it's not new, so they're comfortable with implementing the solution. And let me give you an example. Boeing is a fine example of this. Boeing is a company that makes planes, and you might very well think of it as a airplane manufacturer, but it's actually one of the largest defense manufacturing equipment manufacturing companies in the US, or rather in the world. Boeing is one of the largest, in the top 5. With that being said, Boeing is a huge organization that was experiencing the same shortage as the rest of the companies were in the US. So they figured out ab kya kare. So first they started off by poaching from other organizations, but of course that is not a solution at the end of the day. And you can increase salaries, but only up to a certain level. You can't offer obscene amounts. You can't offer $1 million to a staff accountant. That's not possible. The economy will not work. So that was obviously a dead end. So kya kare? So they contacted Genpact. They asked Genpact to take up this particular project, see if they can actually replace their existing FP&A department and do the process in India or somewhere else, wherever. मतलब Genpact के ऊपर जहाँ मर्जी करे. उन्होंने ये offer दी. Technically, challenge लिया. Genpact delivered. At the end of 1 year, using India का backend office, they delivered the same level of effectiveness, the same level of accuracy, but at a fraction of the cost. At a third of the cost, to be precise. Genpact saved a fortune. And you know what it did with the money? It didn't just take it and put it in the bank. It used that money to hire better engineers in the US. So welcome to the 21st century. This is the global world now. If you're better at engineering, have a job in the US. You can take it and build better planes. If you're better at accounting, the jobs are in India, you can take it there. That's simple. तो बोइंग ने एक्चुअली अपना काफ़ी डिपार्टमेंट शट डाउन किया, लोगों को रिलीज़ किया कि बोलो तुमको नौकरी मिलेगी बहुत अच्छे से, मार्केट में शॉर्टेज है, जाओ, नो प्रॉब्लम. दे ओनली रिटेन्ड सम की पर्सनल एंड हायर्ड Genpact full time. That's a success story right there. And that's happening all across India at all scale. With that being said, let's move on to the next slide and talk about what do I mean by it's happening all around India and what are the areas where a CPA can actually find employment. कहाँ नौकरी मिलती है हमें? Let's start off by talking about the first very obvious choice, the Big Four and the Big Six. Big Four and Big Six में EY, KPMG, PwC, Deloitte, these companies are obviously part of it. But जो इसमें अच्छी चीज़ है वो पता है क्या है? That they're a brand name, a strong brand name. And you can use that brand name in your CV, and then finding your next job becomes a relatively easier task to do. That's why Big Four and Big Six are preferred by FP&A professionals across the world. And so should you. And they hire CPAs in bulk. That's the good news. But let's not also forget that beyond these 4 companies, or 6 companies, there's actually a whole world out there. Let's also talk about India's massive outsourcing industry. And by the way, I'll come back to the Big Four, Big Six and explain their model as well while I explain this model right here. India में क्या है ना, they've got a massive outsourcing industry. Why is that? Because, well, we have a pool of talent, human resource, who are skilled and are capable of learning whatever you want them to learn. And they can deliver at the same quality as the rest of the world. We are at that point now. And that's why we are considered, the hub for data processing, just like China is considered the hub for manufacturing. Same sort of thing. So क्या है कि India has back-end offices across the world. And I'm going to explain the model to you very simply. होता क्या है? Let's say you've got a staff CPA, an associate level CPA working in the US. You're going to bill your client as, let's say you're an EY, you're going to bill your client $100 an hour for that CPA, which is the base, right? Base pay. Partner के लिए it can go to thousands of hours. For an associate, it's $100 an hour. Now, what does it cost you actually to retain that employee, feed them, give them their salary, etc., insurance, taxes, etc.? It'll cost you about $48 to $50 for that particular hour for that particular employee. You bring this model to India and you get a CPA in India, you only have to pay them $7 an hour. And you can charge your client $60 an hour. The client still makes a saving. You make a killer margin in it as EY or as a Genpact or an Accenture, which is basically what the outsourcing model is, right? All of these huge companies that you think about, Genpact हो गई, Accenture हो गई, ये अपना Capgemini हो गई, name any यार, you think of a big name, FIS Global, DXC, you name whatever you want. All of these companies have offices in India and you wonder what those offices do. They're all doing back-end work. Same story. India has a massive outsourcing. And that killer saving that we're talking about at an associate level only widens when it's at a higher, upper level, managerial level. So it makes sense to bring work to India and get it done at a lower cost. That's why, because of the shortage and because of the way India is set up, about 1,56,000 jobs are about to open up in India in the next 5 years. That's the idea, specifically just for CPAs. Okay, in addition to, of course, outsourcing industries that are doing third party work, you also have 10,000 plus listed brands on NYSE. Companies like Boeing. But do you also know that the best of the best in India also get listed on NYSE? You know that? So I've got the CFO of Reliance Geo, sorry, I said GEO for some silly reason. Reliance Geo. I've got the CFO of Geo actually studying with us. And I'll give you a few examples here. Indian companies that are listed on NYSE, and this may be news to you, this may not be news to you, but I'll put it all in context for you. Think of who is an Indian motor brand here doing exceptionally well. Indian motor brands वैसे भी limited ही हैं. And please don't tell me Maruti Suzuki, because you gotta know it's Suzuki, it's Japanese, right? Maruti is just a government owned entity that was a government owned entity that was privatized and given to Suzuki. So it has nothing to do with us being Indian. Maruti Suzuki is not Indian, it's Japanese. Indian brand कौन कौन से हैं? You've got Tata Motors and you've got Mahindra. And if you want to include Force in this list as well. Force भी गाड़ियाँ बनाता. Force की कुरखा बिकती है ना. Now in the three, who is the leader? Is it Mahindra? No. Is it Force? Definitely not. It's Tata Motors. Tata Motors has carved a special space not only between the customers in India but also in B2B, because they are, your taxi class cars. They're also leaders in Indian EV. आज आपको EV लेनी है अगर इंडिया में तो टेस्ला नहीं है. आप कहाँ से लोगे? आप टाटा से लोगे. Nexon is your best choice. Naturally. Tata Motors is listed on NYSE because it has reached that scale. By the way, Tata Motors also owns Jaguar and Land Rover. So they're listed. Let's talk about banks. India में private player banks में who's the number one bank right now in India? Put it in the chat. Number one player कौन है? Feel free to put it in the chat. Nobody's gonna judge you if you get the answer wrong. I think we're all agreeing to this. HDFC, na, right? Thanks, Kunal Modi. Thanks, Akash Shah, Saha. Sorry, right? It's HDFC, right? Obviously, right? HDFC has more than 60% share in India. HDFC is listed on NYSE. Why do I have the CFO of Reliance Jio studying with me? Why does he have to choose to do CPA? He's a CFO, yeah. तो क्या जरूरत है लाइफ में? Reliance also is not listed on NYSE, but trades euro bonds on NYSE. So it has to comply with SEC rules. Even they have to comply. Wipro, Infosys, classic examples. Infosys is one of the first companies from India to get listed on NYSE. And the best of the best from everywhere, across the globe, all of them get listed on NYSE. जब आप उतने बड़े हो जाते हो ना कि अपने कंट्री में तो लिस्ट हो गए और मार्केट जीत गए, then you get listed on NYSE. Then you need a CPA. And nothing else will do. Na ACCA chalega, na CA chalega. And they may be beautiful qualifications. I have nothing against them. But they just won't do. You need a CPA. It's a law. Let's also talk about the fact कि इंडिया में आप सोच सकते हो ऐसा कि यार ये नेक्स्ट स्लाइड पे आ जाए मैं कि यार ये स्टार्टअप्स वगैरह जो हैं इंडिया में, इंडिया का ग्रास रूट्स पेनिट्रेशन थोड़ी होगा सीपीए का. स्टार्टअप्स को थोड़ी जरूरत पड़ती होगी सीपीए. हाँ, छोटे स्टार्टअप्स को नहीं पड़ती. But if you think about what are these unicorn startups that we've seen in India, like you've got Zomato and Swiggy and Ola and Uber and name a few, Bharat Pay and all of these startups, $1 billion companies. अभी अभी चालू हुई और $1 billion की होगी, कई करोड़ों की होगी. What do they all have in common? What is common in all of them? They've all been invested in. They've all been invested in by a American capitalist. Could be a venture capital firm, could be a investment banker or an investment bank, could be a angel investor. You name whatever you want to name it. They've all been invested in with American money. That's what's common in all of them. And if you want a Sequoia Capital or a SoftBank to come invest in your startup, it's not enough just to have a CEO from IIM. You also need a CFO who is dually qualified. क्योंकि फॉरेन इन्वेस्टर जो है ना वो भी इंसान है और उसके भी कुछ बायसेस हैं. And the foreign investor feels a lot more comfortable if your CFO, if the project being invested in, the CFO is dually qualified. They've got a qualification for the local land, which is a CA. You need to have a CA. But they also understand the investor's language, which is a CPA. क्योंकि जो मर्जी कर लो, सिकोया कैपिटल आपकी बैलेंस शीट, आपकी इनकम स्टेटमेंट रुपए में नहीं देखेगी, डॉलर में देखेगी. INDAS के हिसाब से नहीं चलेगी, वो उनको US गैप चाहिए. Having a CFO who's got 2 qualifications and one of them is American makes a huge difference. And that's where some of that 40% people in my class who are qualified CAs are aiming to get to. That's what they want to do. And many of them have the experience. मैं ये नहीं कह रहा fresher CFO बन जाएगा. Please don't get me wrong. But many of my students who are already CAs are actually older gentlemen. They've got 15-20 years of experience. They have the ability to fill those shoes. With experience, if you're a younger person, you too can have that. Let's move on to the next topic. Also talk about taxation, because all of this global business that we just discussed, it has global tax implications. Amazon जैसी कंपनी जो Amazon इंडिया के नाम से इंडिया में फंक्शन करती है और यूके में भी सामान बेचती है और अफ्रीका में भी सामान बेचती है और बाकी जगह एशिया में भी चलती है, has many subsidiaries across the globe. The parent entity is a NYSE listed SEC compliant mother entity called Amazon US. That's the main entity. And at the end of the year, the main entity has to file taxes with IRS. IRS is the Internal Revenue Service, US का tax office. They have to. उस टाइम पे क्या होगा? They have to come out and tell कि यार इंडिया से we earned so many rupees नहीं, dollars, which is this much percentage of our global income. And since India and US already have a dual taxation treaty, don't tax me twice. Give me a foreign tax credit. Amazon इंडिया जैसी कंपनी के सिर्फ Amazon इंडिया का ही अगर आपको फॉरेन टैक्स का क्रेडिट कैलकुलेट करना हो, you need a team of 50+ CPAs working around the year just to be able to keep up with that, just for this one credit, foreign tax. That's the sort of level of work that goes into running a business. That being said, we also have new technologies, new avenues opening up all the time. ब्लॉकचेन के बारे में सुना होगा आपने. So you've heard of it. You may not be able to describe it effectively, but I'm sure you've heard of it, right? Does it affect your life? Probably not. But here's the deal. Blockchain is, in essence, a very effective peer-to-peer network to store data in multiple subledgers, which is what makes it, uncorruptible. And it's a fast technology. It's rapid. So Wall Street banks, they have to deal with 3 terabytes of data per second. So 3 TB per second. Per second. इतना डेटा आता है उनके पास फ्रॉम देयर डे ट्रेड्स, वॉल स्ट्रीट पे सिक्योरिटी बेची, इसका शेयर ले लो, उसका शेयर बेच दो, वगैरह वगैरह. So this sort of stuff has 3 terabytes of data flowing in every second. One of these investment banks, big banks, they're worried about storing all of this data because they have to. Because just like every other bank, they have to be audited. वॉल स्ट्रीट पे हो या जहाँ मर्जी हो, ऑडिट होना जरूरी है. ऑडिट होगा तो ट्रेल चाहिए. So all of that data needs to be stored in servers. Servers are expensive. So a couple of these guys figured out, what if we start using blockchain for storing our daily trade? Will that be effective? Will that reduce our cost? They tried it and they actually succeeded at it. And now 2 out of the 5 top Wall Street banks actually implement blockchain for storing all their data. And as a result, in 2024, in your CPA content, you've got a new topic in the auditing book called blockchain auditing. Because now the audit trail is no longer on a PDF or on Excel or on a PC. Now you have to access it through blockchain. You have to understand its ramifications, understand and consider the fact that it is uncorruptible to quite an extent. If you check multiple bits, they function well and they're showing or reflecting the same value, you can bank on that. All of that has to be taught. It is being taught. And soon enough, as blockchain becomes a bigger technology, more rapidly acceptable technology, and more people implement it, you will find there will be a small niche of CPAs. उनका नाम होगा blockchain auditors. These CPAs will get paid better than everybody else on the planet who is from this profession. You know why? I mean, I'm including ACCAs and CAs in this list. You know why? क्योंकि बाकी करिकुलम्स में तो क्या बात ही नहीं हो रही. सीपीए के करिकुलम में कम से कम बात तो होती है. Because that's the sort of curriculum it is, na? CPA is designed to be industry ready. It's designed to be today's curriculum. It's current. It's up to date. It's all included there. And a small niche of people will find new avenues as a fruitful employment. That's my point, buddy. New technologies will come along and they will bring more work for us. Accounting will not stop. Business cannot function well. Let's move on to the next slide. Now, अभी तक जो मैंने बात करी आपसे, मैंने वो बात करी which is about आप सीपीए बन गए तो क्या मिलेगा. और मैंने पैसे की कोई खास बात नहीं करी इसमें, बट मैंने अपॉर्चुनिटीज की बात की. बट अगेन, to get to this point, you have to first become a CPA. So let's start off by talking about the fact that you have to clear 4 exams. Before we get to that, let's talk about the current exam pattern. Let me tell you what all is on offer. First things first, today you've got a 3+1 model. So 3 core subjects, which includes accounting, financial accounting and reporting, FAR, US tax regulation and business laws, reg, and auditing and attestation engagements, odd. These are the 3 core subjects. Accounting हो गया, tax हो गया, auditing हो गया. Simple, easy peasy. In addition to that, you also have the choice of specialization. And you can choose one specialization out of 3, and you have to give a total of 4 exams only, no more than that. Nothing else has changed in that sense. पहले भी 4 होते थे exam, अब भी 4 हैं. But now you have the choice of selecting your 4th paper. पहले नहीं होती थी. पहले जो 4 पेपर होते थे बंधे हुए होते थे. यही 4 हैं, यही करने. Now you have a choice. So what are your choices? You've got 3 choices. You've got BAR, Business Analysis and Reporting. You've got TCB, Tax Compliance and Planning, and you've got ISC, Information Systems and Controls. Now these 3 subjects are all from 3 different domains. If you're interested in accounting, if you're interested in planning and analysis, I think BAR is a perfect fit for you. If you're interested in taxation, reg ka specialization TCP le sakte ho. And if you're somebody who's interested in audit, especially in IT audit, then ISC is a good choice for you. Now it's a common question I get, so which one of these 3 subjects should we take? Common question I get often. Let me tell you what the actual answer should be. It depends entirely on you and where you think your career is going. Because I told you, CPAs don't just work in accounting, they don't just work in taxation, they don't just work in auditing, they also work in consulting. But to be consulting at something, you have to be a specialist of it. ठीक है ना? You can't just be a fresher. And to be a specialist, you need to have a specialization. You can elect a specialization now. And through that elective specialization, you should be choosing the subject that you most use in your career. अगर अकाउंटिंग पसंद है, प्लानिंग पसंद है, लाइफ में CFO बनना है, PAR is a good choice. उठा लो. अगर आपको टैक्स प्रैक्टिशनर बनना है और आपको दिख रहा है यार ये फॉरेन एंटिटीज इंडिया में टैक्स का बहुत इनका खलेरा होता होगा, एंड इफ आई कैन हेल्प देम प्लान देयर टैक्स, आई थिंक आई कैन मेक अ किलिंग इन दिस बिजनेस. TCP is your choice. And if you feel you're savvy with technology, then get into the niche of information systems and controls, ISC. You know why? US में ना एक स्पेशल डिग्री है CISA, CISA, सर्टिफाइड इंफॉर्मेशन सिस्टम्स ऑडिटर. CPA करने के बाद US में लोग CISA करते हैं अगर उनको इस डोमेन में जाना होता तो. CISA का काफी सारा कंटेंट ISC के अंदर ऑलरेडी इंक्लूडेड. So tomorrow, if you're sitting for an audit interview and you're sitting in a company that's talking about IT auditing or information systems auditing, then in that case you will be able to give answers in your interview that are more succinct, that are more in depth, more detailed than the next guy, because you know about ISC and you are partly a CISA as well, because वो आपने कर. Okay, with that being said, let's move on to the next slide. Let's also talk about the new exam pattern. So पहले क्या होता था ना, I'll tell you why I'm saying new exam pattern, because I want to draw a parallel from पहले क्या होता था, and by पहले I mean 2 महीने पहले, not a long time ago, right? So this is all the 24 pattern, and anybody who enrolls now is enrolling in the 24 pattern. You can't enroll in 23 anymore. But 23 में क्या होता था कि there used to be 3 different types of questions. MCQs होते थे, TBSs होते थे और WCT ऐसे भी होते थे. और पहले ये शोर होता था ऑनलाइन के CPAs 100% ऑब्जेक्टिव. सच नहीं था ये, क्योंकि WCT होते थे. But it's changed. Now you actually have a 100% objective paper, because you've only got 2 types of questions, MCQs and TBSs. MCQ, I'm sure you know what it is, multiple choice question. एक question, 4 choices, कौन बनेगा करोड़पति format, right? And then next up is TBSs, task based simulation. These are also objective, ये भी multiple choice होते हैं, but they are long form case study type questions. जैसे अगर audit का पेपर है ना, तो they'll give you an audit report with blanks in it, and they'll tell you the findings, and they'll tell you audit report भर दो, ये फाइंडिंग आई है, अब ऑडिट रिपोर्ट भर दो, ओपिनियन बनाओ और भर दो. So there you're filling in the blanks. Again, every time you click on a blank, you'll have like 5-7 options, and for each option you'll be able to select one correct one, right? But लंबा होगा ये पर. अगर अकाउंटिंग का पेपर है तो बोलेंगे यार अमोर्टाइजेशन शेड्यूल के अंदर कैलकुलेशन करके दिखाओ 7th ईयर और 8th ईयर का क्या इंटरेस्ट और क्या अमोर्टाइजेशन बनता, फॉर एन एग्जाम्पल. या जर्नल एंट्री पास कर दो, और ये 4 कॉम्प्लेक्स ट्रांजैक्शंस हैं, ये 4 जर्नल एंट्री इनकी क्या होनी चाहिए, एंड देन फिर रेक का पेपर है अगर मान लो, तो रेक के पेपर में दे विल प्रॉब्ली आस्क भाई कैलकुलेट करो, क्रेडिट कैलकुलेट करो, फॉरेन टैक्स क्रेडिट कैलकुलेट कर दो, ये इनकम्स हैं, बताओ कितना FTC बनता. सिंपल इजी. या फिर वो बोलेंगे यार चलो रिटर्न है, रिटर्न के अंदर ये कुछ पीसेज हैं, इन पीसेस को भर दो. सो इट्स मोर प्रैक्टिकल, मोर थिंग्स दैट यू वुड एक्चुअली डू एट योर जॉब, tasks that you would actually perform at your job. Those are being tested here. Now, if you look at the exam pattern, you would notice यहाँ नीचे लिखा हुआ है 1 2 3 4 5 testlet 1 2 3 4 5. What is a testlet? A testlet is just a group. Each exam is a 4-hour exam, and in each exam there are 5 groups. And I'm sure you're wondering now, क्यों 5 group क्यों हैं, 4 क्यों नहीं है, 6 क्यों नहीं है? I'll give an answer to that. I'll give you an actual answer to that. But इस पे पिन लगाओ. I'll talk about when I get to the next slide. So now what I want to talk about is, if you notice in 5 testlets mein, first 2 testlets are always MCQs, last 3 testlets are always TBSs, always. And first 2 testlets yani MCQs and TBSs both have a 50-50 weightage. But if you notice, MCQs 2 testlet में 50% weightage ले जाते हैं, TBSs 3 testlet होने पर 50 पूरे. So if you look at testlet wise, MCQ के पहले जो testlet हैं have more weightage than the last 3 testlets. अब ये सारी चीज़ मैं आपको बता तो रहा हूँ, and in addition to this, I'm also trying to tell you that there are 5 testlets for a reason. Put a pin in it. So I'm gonna now obviously get to the next slide. I'm gonna tell you all about the scoring pattern. But before I get there, मेरे को ना एक सवाल पूछना है. पांच एक पोल है, रिलीज कर दो यार. I want to know from you guys, what have you heard? Is the CPA exam easy? Is it difficult? Is it very difficult? Or is it medium? What have you heard? Give me your vote. Done? 61%. जल्दी कर दो यार. Oh, and by the way, if there's somebody who can't see the poll because you're joining on a mobile, check your menu. Menu के अंदर आएगा poll. And if you're on a laptop, then it's fairly easy. So let's close it. Let's take a look at what everybody. There we are. 8% लोगों को easy लगा, 25% लोगों को medium, 33% लोगों को hard लगा, और 33% लोगों को very hard भी लगा. So it's a mixed response from everybody. So close कर देना Manchu. Let's just close it. Mixed response from everybody, and clearly people were more, heavily consolidating towards the, middle and medium and hard के आसपास सबसे ज़्यादा concentration थी लोगों की. सबसे ज़्यादा votes वहाँ हैं. ठीक है, fair enough. Here's what I'll tell you the truth is. You're all right and you're all wrong. फर्क नहीं पड़ता. It depends entirely on you. Okay, let me explain. So CPA exam जो है ना, it's a computer adaptive exam. And how you perform in TESLAT 1 will determine the level of difficulty of TESLAT 2. How you perform in TESLAT 2 will determine the level of difficulty for TESLAT 3. You need a 75 percentile, not a percentage, a percentile to pass your CPA exam. And mind you, percentile जो है ना, that's not the same as a percentage or even a normal percentile like you would have for a CAT exam. CPA की percentile is pre-pegged, तो predetermined है. तो उसमें क्या होता है, they use two variables. एक होता है percentage of accuracy, and the second variable is level of difficulty. So percentage of accuracy is the same as, our percentages in India. Like if you've got 10 questions of equal weightage, you get 7 of them right, you get a 70% accuracy. So that's important. The second thing is level of difficulty. That also has weight in your percentile. In fact, it has more weight in your percentile. So TESLAT 1 में कैसा परफॉर्म करोगे उसके बेसिस पे TESLAT 2 आएगा. TESLAT 2 में कैसा परफॉर्म करोगे उसके बेसिस पे TESLAT 3 आएगा. या तो डिफिकल्ट होगा या आसान होगा. डिफिकल्ट होगा तो परसेंटाइल बढ़ेगी, आसान होगा तो परसेंटाइल घटेगी. Now let me give you an example. Let's say in TESLAT 1, you do really well. You get like a 70, 80, 90%, 95%, which is a good accuracy. So if you get that kind of an accuracy, TESLAT 2 becomes more difficult. Now in TESLAT 2, because it is more difficult, you can't get like a 95% accuracy maybe, but you can get a lower 80% accuracy or something like that, which is fine. It doesn't matter because your percentile increased when the level of difficulty increased. What if it's the other way around? What if you're in TESLAT 1 and you bomb? खराब हो गया. 30, 40, 50% accuracy, 55% accuracy आ रही है. बहुत खराब accuracy. क्या होगा? TESLAT 2 becomes easier. Now in TESLAT 2, which is easier, you can probably get a great accuracy. You can get a 95, 100% accuracy. Even if you get 100% now in TESLAT 2, it will only take the percentile back to where it started. It will not go up. That's why the first two TESLATs have more weightage than the last three TESLATs. And क्योंकि CPA एग्जाम में 4 बार लेवल ऑफ डिफिकल्टी कंपाउंड होती है ना, इसलिए 5 टेस्लेट होने जरूरी है. टेस्लेट 1 के बाद 2 के बाद 3 के बाद 4 के बाद लेवल ऑफ डिफिकल्टी चेंज होगी. 5 के बाद तो पेपर खत्म है ना. Okay, with that being said, what's different in CPA? Let's also talk about that. And again, I hope I answered your question. Yeah, the level of difficulty for your CPA exam actually depends on how you perform. And you want it to get difficult because the more difficult it gets, even at lower accuracy, you can get more percentile points. That's the beauty. Now, speaking of that, what else is beautiful about CPA? What all is different about CPA? Let's talk about the skills that are tested in the CPA exam. अगर आप यहाँ नीचे डायग्राम देखते हैं इस तरफ को, ये नीचे जो डायग्राम है, skills tested in descending orders. So you'll find out what are the skills that the CPA exam is trying to test. And in descending बोले तो most important से least important. The most important skill the CPA exam is testing is evaluation. then it's analysis, then it's application, last में remembering. Now, even if you don't actually relate with these terms, you don't know what evaluation, you don't care what application is, you don't care about analysis either, you don't know what this is. There's one thing you're still going to be able to catch in this. You know what? Remembering. क्योंकि इंडिया में क्या है ना, हम जब पेपर देते हैं, वी आर ऑलवेज प्रोवाइडेड अ ब्लैंक पीस ऑफ पेपर और हमें बोला जाता है इसको भरो, यही होता है. And because we have to quote from the text, for us, the biggest skill that is tested is remembering. So that's why we have to read the book 3 times, make notes from it, learn the notes, learn the exact terms. लॉ के पेपर में सेक्शन नंबर याद कर लोगे तो एक्स्ट्रा मार्क्स मिलेंगे. ये सब चीज़ें इसलिए होती हैं हमारे साथ, बस रिमेंबरिंग इज आवर प्राइमरी फोकस. अब ये सीपीए एग्जाम वाले लोग कह रहे हैं कि भैया नहीं, हमें तो रिमेंबरिंग इज द लीस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर अस. फॉर अस व्हाट इज मोर इंपॉर्टेंट इज एवेल्युएशन. पहले तो मैं बता दूं ऐसा क्यों है. ब्लूम्स ने, रिसर्च ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, ब्लूम्स ने यूएस में आइडेंटिफाई करा कि जो लोग फ्रेशली सीपीए बन के मार्केट में निकलते हैं, इनके एम्प्लॉयर से अगर पूछा जाए कि ये फ्रेश सीपीए में क्या कमी है, तो एम्प्लॉयर क्या जवाब देता है. तो उन्होंने यही बोला, द फर्स्ट थिंग दैट्स मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट टू अस इज एवेल्युएशन, बेसिकली जजमेंट. नीड टू बी एबल टू जज व्हाट इज रेलेवेंट, व्हाट्स नॉट. And just like in a question in an MCQ, they'll give you a lot of information, but you'll have to figure out ये फालतू इन्फॉर्मेशन हटाने का क्या है, अपने पास काम का क्या है. Valuation. Then they said we also want people who are able to analyze the information that's given to them, draw the right insights from it, which is what you have to do. If you want to solve a question, you got to analyze the question first. And then they said application of what they've studied. Practical application आनी बहुत ज़रूरी है. Application करने के लिए remembering भी चाहिए. जो पढ़ा है वो याद होगा तो अप्लाई करना भी आपको याद रहेगा, ऐसे करते. तो एप्लीकेशन इज द थर्ड स्किल दैट दे. देन लास्टली ऑब्वियसली रिमेंबरिंग पार्ट ऑफ इट. दैट्स द ब्लूम्स टैक्सोनॉमी. दैट्स व्हाई आई कीप टेलिंग यू सीपीए एग्जाम इज अ जॉब रेडी कोर्स. आई डोंट जस्ट से इट एज अ मार्केटिंग टर्म. देयर इज जेन्युइन रीजन बिहाइंड इट. एंड विद दैट बीइंग सेड, आई हैव अ क्वेश्चन नाउ अगेन फॉर यू. आज तक आप जैसे पढ़े हो, क्या आप उसी तरीके से सीपीए के लिए भी पढ़ सकते हो? Because the testing pattern just changed on you. Is the exact opposite of what you expect in India. So can you study for CPA using your old pattern? Give me a yes or a no in the chat, please. Yes or a no? Can you study using the old pattern? Guys, I need a response. मैं बहुत जिद्दी हूँ, मैं आगे नहीं बढ़ूंगा जब तक मुझे रिस्पॉन्स नहीं मिलेगा. ओके, थैंक. आने लग गए, टाइम लग गया थोड़ा चैट करने में, डालने में, बट यस. And again, if there's somebody who's in, using a mobile and you don't know where the chat section is, तो again check your menu यार, मेन्यू में मिल जाएगा चैट में जाकर डाल दो. नो, थैंक यू, रिस्पॉन्स आ रहे हैं मेरे पास. Of course, right? No. Any sane person who's been listening so far will obviously have to agree with me and say, no, we cannot study using the old pattern. So I'm going to have to tell you how to study. But before I get into that, let's move on to the next slide. Let me actually first clear the air about study material. Here's a golden rule. अगर आप CPA की पढ़ाई कर रहे हो ना, तो there's a golden rule that I give to all my students. And again, it doesn't matter अगर आप CPA की पढ़ाई कर रहे हो, या if you're studying for CMA, or if you're studying for CFA, or if you're studying for FRM, basically any American qualification, this golden rule works. Okay? The golden rule is, for every 2 hours that you spend studying, self-study करते हो on an American qualification, divide it into 2 parts. 1:3 के ratio में. So 1/4 of your time, which is about 30 minutes of the 2 hours, should be spent in revising the book. The remaining hour and a half should be spent in practicing in the OTB, online test bank. Now there's so many of you from all across India here in this session, and I'm sure some of you would have spoken to my competitors. मुझे बताओ, आप चैट में बताओ, क्या किसी ने भी आपको OTB के बारे में बताया? But the OTB is the most important tool. अगर आपने CPA पढ़नी है तो सबसे important tool आपके लिए OTB है. And why is that? Because CPA exam is a test of skills. And what do you consider as a skill? Singing is a skill, dancing is a skill, driving is a skill. What do you consider a skill? एंड किसी भी स्किल को बनाने के लिए सबसे बड़ी चीज क्या लगती है? फटे से फटे गले वाला बंदा भी गा सकता है अगर वो म्यूजिक सीखे और रियाज करे, प्रैक्टिस। दैट्स द पॉइंट, प्रैक्टिस लगती है। एंड टू डू योर प्रैक्टिस, मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट टूल इज द ऑनलाइन टेस्ट बैंक। नथिंग एल्स कम्स क्लोज, नथिंग एल्स मैटर्स। बुक भी अगर एक बार को बढ़िया नहीं है ना, चल जाएगा, टेस्ट बैंक जरूरी हो, बढ़िया होना बहुत जरूरी। तो नाउ लेट मी टेल यू, इन इंडिया, दिस इज अ इंडिया स्पेसिफिक प्रॉब्लम। इन इंडिया people don't know that there are two categories of study material. बाहर सबको पता है, but in India it's a little under the wraps. Somehow this hasn't reached everybody. Because CPA hasn't reached everybody just yet, है ना? It's not as famous. But with that being said, there's two types of study material there. There's AICPA approved, and AICPA कौन है? वही CPA body, American Institute of Certified Public Accountants. इंडिया में ICAI है. That's the body that gives you your CPA degree, right? एक AICPA का अप्रूव्ड कंटेंट है और दूसरा कंटेंट है जो लोकल सेल्फ प्रोड्यूस्ड पायरेटेड कंटेंट। दो तरीके का कंटेंट। और अप्रूव्ड कंटेंट के वेंडर्स 5 ही थे, 5 ही हैं और 5 ही रहेंगे। मैं इतनी सर्टेनिटी से क्यों कह रहा हूँ ये? क्योंकि क्या सिस्टम है ना कि व्हेन वी स्टार्टेड ऑफ, व्हेन AICPA स्टार्टेड ऑफ, इंडिया में जैसे होता ना कि ICAI अपना मटेरियल खुद बनाता है और खुद प्रोड्यूस करता है और खुद उसका डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करता है। तो अगर आपको CA का ऑफिशियल मटेरियल चाहिए तो आप ट्रेनिंग सेंटर नहीं जाओगे, आप कहाँ जाओगे? आप जाओगे ICAI की विंडो पे, उनको बोलोगे मेरे को ऑफिशियल बुक्स दो, राइट? इंस्टीट्यूट का मटेरियल। US में ऐसे नहीं है। AICPA फ्रॉम डे वन हैज नेवर एक्चुअली distributed and printed and produced its own content. They only author what the content should be. That's it. So they started off by tying up with Wiley, which is a 200-year-old company, one of the oldest in the world. And Wiley was the first company in the world to actually sell and distribute CPA books. But soon enough, it became a monopoly. That monopoly was not acceptable. So they released a list of 5 कंपनीज इंक्लूडिंग वाइली, जिनको ये मौका दिया जा रहा था कि आप 5 बड़े पब्लिशिंग हाउसेज हैं, आइए आप प्रिंटिंग की और आप मटेरियल लाइसेंस करके AICPA से आप उसको आगे सेल कीजिए, राइट? नाउ इस लिस्ट में आप देखोगे, आपको यार वाइली तो नहीं है इस लिस्ट में, कहीं है एक्चुअली वाइली आज भी इस लिस्ट में है, क्या उसका नाम ऐसे डायरेक्टली नहीं दिख रहा आपको, पर है। कौन कौन से हैं ये कंपनीज? यू वर्ल्ड, बेकर्स, सर्जेंट, निंजा या अनदर 71 एंड ग्लाइम, ये 5 है। एंड इसमें वाइली कौन सी है? यू वर्ल्ड। तो पहले लिस्ट थोड़ी अलग होती थी। पहले लिस्ट होती थी वाइली, रॉजर्स, सर्जेंट, बेकर्स एंड ग्लाइम, निंजा नहीं होता था अप्रूव्ड। फिर रॉजर्स और वाइली का जो मर्जर हुआ उसका नाम है यू वर्ल्ड, दैट इज व्हाट इज ऑन द लिस्ट नाउ। अब ना रॉजर्स अलग से है ना वाइली अलग से मिलता, यू वर्ल्ड। फिर है बेकर्स, फिर है सर्जेंट, ग्लाइम भी है, और जो ऐड हुई है इस लिस्ट में वो है निंजा, दैट्स द न्यू ऐड। तो ये 5 की लिस्ट है, ये 5 की रहती है। तभी मैंने इतनी सर्टेनिटी से आपसे कहा ये 5 थे, 5 हैं, 5 रहेंगे, चाहे नाम बदल जाएं, लोग बदल जाएं, लिस्ट 5 की रहेगी। दैट्स द आइडिया। नाउ विद दैट बीइंग सेड, इसके अलावा भी बहुत कुछ मिलता है मार्केट में, पर वो AICPA पे अप्रूव्ड नहीं होता। अब आप सोच सकते हो कि यार क्या फ़र्क पड़ता है, AICPA पे अप्रूव नहीं तो क्या हो गया? वेल आई विल टेल यू क्या हो गया। फर्स्टली यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट द CPA कंटेंट इज एवर इवॉल्विंग, बिकॉज इट्स अ जॉब रेडी कोर्स, तो इट कीप्स चेंजिंग। So AICPA keeps adding updates every 6 months, every 2 quarters. That's the idea. And when content updates come, the first people that get the update are people using approved content. Everybody else that is producing the content based off a copy of the approved content, putting a spin on it on themselves, all of these guys are actually looking at the update from the outside. तो वो वेट करते हैं कि अपडेट मेन मटेरियल में आ जाए, फिर हम अपने में कर देंगे। It's a slower process for you. Number 2, thing with AICPA approved is you always know that it's the approved content। बोले तो क्वालिटी पे चेक है, क्वालिटी चेक हुई है तभी AICPA का अप्रूवल आया। Third thing that you can always be sure of with AICPA approved is that the test bank is following the exact weightage as is mentioned in the blueprint. So blueprint क्या है? It's the official syllabus. Want the AICPA syllabus, you can't say AICPA syllabus or CPA syllabus. The right term would be to search online for AICPA blueprint, फिर syllabus मिल जाए। तो ब्लूप्रिंट के बेसिस पर बना है टेस्ट बैंक, इसकी भी गारंटी हो. When you go local, there are no guarantees, buddy. There's nothing. You don't know if it really is as good as they're claiming, if it is really sufficient. It's possible a lot of people are still passing from reading that particular content, but you can't ever be sure it's only because of that content, because they might have to read other things. That's the truth. That's the honest fact. You can go cheap or you can go deep. It's up to you. That's the idea. You know the content. And now if you're interested, if you are interested, I've got a small 16-second video. And in that video, I can tell you why UWorld is the best study material in the market, why we've chosen it, and what actually drove us to the point where we wanted UWorld to be up. Right.
Award-winning MCQs, hundreds of task-based simulations, amazing visual answer explanations, a fully featured mobile app, and dynamic video lectures.
Okay. Now, what may not have been covered in that small, 15-second video is some few additional things that you need to know. Of course, they've got award-winning lectures, else, but more importantly, here's why we actually chose them over everybody else. Number one, the fact that all other providers in India come with limited access. It's either a monthly access or it is a limited 18-month access. That's the only thing they sell in India. Be it Becker's, be it Surgent, be it Climb, or Ninja ka monthly ho. So in these cases, you pay the sum of money, you pay the fees as a student, not knowing what the situation is. But after 18 months, you're not somebody who's cleared all 4 exams. Agar ek bhi reh gaya aapka, you will have to pay a renewal charge. UWorld comes with access till you pass as standard, because it's a Wiley partner. Wiley has been merged into it, so वो पुरानी philosophy चलती जा रही है, unlimited access. That's the right thing for you. That's number one that I want to point out. कि UWorld के साथ you get unlimited access. मतलब कोई renewal, कोई hidden charges नहीं है. Good thing. Second thing that I want to talk about is the fact that of course they have the highest pass rate. 94% pass rate. That's pretty awesome. With that being said, let's also talk about the third reason why I think UWorld is actually the right partner for us. And that's down to the fact that if you look at the content that they've created right now, the content that they've curated right now, it's a class or a cut above everything else. You know why? Because they've got the best faculties, the best authors working for them. So Becker's was a nobody in the business, but became somebody because of the sole effort, to nahi kahunga main, but the primary efforts, the primary visibility created by Peter Olinto, who was their top CPA faculty. Peter Olinto left Becker's and has joined U. रॉजर्स में जो सबसे बड़ा जो मेन फ्रंटमैन था, रॉजर फिलिप, अभी भी है द लेजेंडरी टीचर. एंड जो वीडियो में आपको दिखाया ना, ऐसे ऊपर नीचे कर रहे थे जो सर, दैट इज रॉजर फिलिप. ऑल्सो अ high class faculty. So these are the two best in the world, and both of them have come together to do UWorld. So it's a strong product that they've put out in the market. That's why it's very obvious for us as a choice. Better bang for buck, be unlimited access hai, and better quality. Why not choose? That's why we chose UWorld for all our study material. That's why our students get UWorld. Let's move on to the next slide, Manshu. Now it's not just the study material. Also a lot more that goes into getting you exam ready. So before I get into that, by the way, if you stick around till the end, we will be sharing with you my 5 steps to prepare for CPA so that you pass it in one attempt. So एक PDF है, we will be sending it to you if you stick to the end, and we will share that with you on your WhatsApp. And in our class, we'll also explain to you what's mentioned in the PDF. Not today, but tomorrow. And I'll talk about that in just a small second. Before I get there, I want to talk about, there are 3 things here that we do at EduMont जो आपको exam ready बनाती हैं. First things first, you've got concept classes. Every Saturday and Sunday, we do live chalk and talk classes When I say live chalk and talk, they're actually online, but they're designed in such a way that they seem like they're real classes. So it's not me in a small box, and it's not like this system right here either. A presentation देने के लिए maybe this is a cool way of doing it, but not for studying. For studying, the old way is the best way. जैसे हमेशा आज तक पढ़े हैं क्या, टॉक एंड टॉक ऐसे ही होता ना. there's a teacher who's training you using a whiteboard. जो भी इंपॉर्टेंट चीज़ है वो चौक से लिख रहा है, और जो भी बात है वो आपस में हम टॉक कर रहे हैं. एंड बाय टॉक आई डोंट मीन वन वे कम्युनिकेशन, आई मीन द टू ऑफ अस टॉकिंग. आपस में बात करनी जरूर. That's why we've built an online system where we have limited seats, but at the same time, in each batch, where we have 50 new students in each batch, we are able to devote time to each student by allowing you to ask questions in the class. So if you take a demo class anywhere else in India, you'll find either they don't allow you to take up queries, and they don't address the queries in the live class, or they don't have a system at all to address queries, और दे टेल यू कि हम क्लास में नहीं करेंगे, आपकी जो क्वेरीज है ना आप बाद में पूछ लें. विच पॉइंट इट्स अ वेस्ट, राइट? टॉक एंड टॉक इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. हम बचपन से आज तक वैसे ही पढ़े हैं यार, तो उसी तरीके से अब भी पढ़ना होगा. तो वी डू दैट, दैट्स द फर्स्ट थिंग दैट वी डू, वी गिव यू आवर क्लासेस, एंड दैट्स व्हाट आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट. इफ यू आर इंटरेस्टेड, वंशु एक पोल रिलीज कर दो यार. इफ यू आर इंटरेस्टेड, कल आ जाओ यार. लाइक आई टोल्ड यू, इट्स एवरी सैटरडे एंड संडे, तो टुमारो इज अ संडे. 10:30 to 2:30 is the time of the class. I usually leave people by 1:30. मैं नहीं इतनी देर खींचता, मैं 3 घंटे में निपटा देता हूँ. So if you come by say 10:30, I'll be able to leave you by 1:30 or so. Again, don't quote me on it, but 1:30 करीब छोड़ दूंगा. Now with that being said, in addition to that, आप poll answer कर रहे हो, आप करो. In addition to that, we also do one more thing in terms of training. Oh, and by the way, before I get to that, also let me say, जो मैं 5 steps की बात कर रहा था ना, I'm gonna give you an access to my 5 steps on how to pass. I'm gonna discuss that in the class tomorrow. So you're welcome to join in. We can have a discussion on it. With that being said, there's another thing that we do here at EduMont. We give you OTB classes. If the OTB is that important for you that you have to spend 75%, 3/4 of your time in studying in the OTB, दिन में आधा घंटा किताब पढ़ो, 1.5 घंटा OTB करो. अगर इतना important है OTB, तो how come an institute in India training in CPA only wants to train you by giving you classes on the weekends, and doesn't actually want to train you on how to do the questions in the OTB, how to actually solve the questions in the OTB? That's the thing I found missing in the Indian market, and that's where EduMont came along and changed it. Now there are other institutes that actually copy this feature from us, which is a good thing, yeah, because if that helps people pass, why not? क्या खराबी हो सकती. So with that being said, OTB class क्या है? OTB class में हम actually questions निकालते हैं from the topics we studied on Saturday and Sunday. We actually discuss them together, and we let the audience answer the question, and then we tell them how does a qualified CPA actually approach this question? How do we get to solving it? So we do OTB sessions on Tuesday and Thursday, late at night from 10 to 11. Now again, why late at night from 10 to 11? Because 95% of our audience is working. तो वर्किंग लोग जो है वो दिन में तो नहीं मिलेंगे मुझे ट्यूसडे थर्सडे में, रात में ही मिल पाएंगे 10 से 11, जब उनका डिनर भी हो जाए और ऑफिस भी हो जाए. एंड अगेन, इफ यू आर समबडी हु फील्स यार कि मेरा तो शायद ऑफिस ना हो, 10 बजे तक मैं शायद फ्री ना हूँ, तो नो प्रॉब्लम, एवरीथिंग गेट्स रिकॉर्डेड एंड गेट्स अपडेटेड इन द LMS. यू कैन व्यू इट एट योर ओन लेजर. बट इफ यू डू फॉलो आवर सिस्टम, यू नो व्हाट्स गुड अबाउट इट? We are in a position to keep in touch with you every second day. So what we do is, we start off with Saturday Sunday की क्लास, मंडे को आपको छुट्टी दे देते हैं. Then Tuesday we do another OTB class, and we'll do the questions. So whatever you studied on Saturday is sort of being revised there. फिर Wednesday को छुट्टी है, and then when it comes to Thursday you've got another class. फिर Friday को फिर छुट्टी है, but when it comes to Saturday there's another class. So we're able to keep in touch with you every alternate day in the week, and this way from one weekend to the next, complete disconnect नहीं हो जाएगा. Which happens, right? If you're a working professional, the biggest problem is the disconnect that happens. सबसे बड़ा कारण वर्किंग प्रोफेशनल पीछे छूट जाए ट्रेनिंग में वो ये होता है कि पिछले सैटरडे संडे पढ़ा था, फिर पूरे हफ्ते पढ़ाई नहीं करी, अब भूल गए पिछले सैटरडे संडे क्या बात हुई थी, और इस सैटरडे संडे का भी भूल गए, इस सैटरडे संडे का अब समझ नहीं आ रहा है. वट एवर, इट्स अ डिस्कनेक्ट दैट गेट्स क्रिएटेड, राइट? वी वांट टू अवॉइड इट. दैट्स व्हाई वी डू द OTB class in the week. And then the third thing we do, Himanshu, let's also show them that, is our safety net system. Safety net system जो है, that's a pass in one attempt system. So here at EduMont, when you want to appear for your exam, and you call our support team and say यार exam की fees जमा करानी है, just like every other institute, we don't just say अच्छा अच्छा यहाँ से जमा होती है. That's not what we'll do. What we'll do is we'll ask you, अच्छा आप fees जमा करा रहे हो, very good, but do you have your faculty's approval? The faculty approved your preparation, and that's my safety net. Here at EduMont, before you actually pay your exam fee and actually go ahead and commit to an exam, we check your preparation. And we make sure that you are in a position to pass. And if you're not in a position to pass, we ask you to delay your plan. 2 हफ्ता रुको, अभी ये 3 टॉपिक कमजोर हैं जो उनको भी पढ़ो, इनके साथ भी टाइम स्पेंड, इन क्वेश्चंस को सॉल्व करो, and then you will be in a position to actually appear for the exam. So come back to me with another mock exam result, and I'll sit with you and I'll do everything. I give you the approval. When I give you the approval, then I can guarantee that you will pass in one. And that's why if you see all our results across social media, and we've got a plenty of them now, and more are coming by the way. अभी 14-15 पे तो भीड़ गई है मेरे यहाँ से पेपर देने, दिसंबर की बात कर रहा हूँ मैं, because that was the last day for BEC testing. More results are also coming out. But with that being said, if you look at all our results, and most of them are 80 plus, there's that also. But forget the 80 plus element. The main thing that's giving me the sense of achievement here is all of them have passed in one attempt. 2 अटेम्प्ट नहीं लगते EduMont में. अगर अप्रूवल मिल गया ना, एक अटेम्प्ट में पास हो गए, क्योंकि we set the standard that high for your preparation. That's the point. Okay, with that being said, let's move on to the next slide. Let's also talk about what do you get when you enroll with EduMont. So you get your UWorld study material. In addition to that, you get the UWorld test bank, which has video lectures, which has MCQs, TBSs, and ebooks as such. And then in addition to that, because a lot of agencies out there, a lot of institutes out there just sell you, surgeon ka material le lo, Becker ka le lo, kahani khatam. They don't do anything on top of that to improve the experience. We've again put in some more effort there. What we've done is we've offered, in addition to the UWorld study material, our own supplementary books. और जो हमारी books हैं, they are actually the quick revision books. तो ये प्री हाईलाइटेड होती हैं, इनमें नोट्स बने हुए होते हैं, जैसे आप नोट्स बनाते हो ना मार्जिन में, तो पहले रेड पेन से उसी फॉन्ट में नोट्स प्री प्रिंटेड होते हैं, और हाईलाइटिंग पहले ही हो रखी होती है इंपॉर्टेंट चीज़ों, जैसे आप हाईलाइटर से करते हो वैसे ही. So this is actually your quick revision book that we give to you, and then you can use this to quickly get through with the topic and then start practicing. And then of course, in addition to that, you have our LMS, where all your recorded classes are available. Access to live classes can be registered through this LMS, and you also have ebook versions of the same printed books that I was talking about. So हर चीज का ebook इसके अंदर भी added है. That's the idea. Now with that being said, let's move on to the next slide and talk about the student's journey. And there's actually 6 steps before you actually get to the point of becoming a CPA. And what are these 6 steps? I'll talk about that. Firstly, you got to get evaluated. So getting evaluated क्या होता है? Basically the same thing as converting your Indian percentages into US credits. तो अभी नेक्स्ट स्लाइड में एलिजिबिलिटी की बात करूंगा ना, तो उसमें होगा कि एलिजिबल होने के लिए यू नीड 120 क्रेडिट्स. अभी क्रेडिट्स कहाँ से आएंगे? कुछ नहीं. दैट्स इवैल्यूएशन. दैट प्रोसेस इज कॉल्ड इवैल्यूएशन. सो यू विल नॉट नो एज अ स्टूडेंट कि हर हम इवैल्यूएशन कहाँ से कराएं, ये रिपोर्ट कहाँ से जनरेट होती है. डोंट वरी, द EduMont टीम इज देयर टू हेल्प यू विद. फर्स्ट स्टेप, get yourself evaluated, then train and self study. That's your next step. Now I hope you do that with EduMont, but if you choose to do that elsewhere, I still wish you good luck. Yeah, no problem. And then the next step is applying for your candidature with NASBA and actually moving on to registering for your exam, paying your exam fee base. So this again you will not know how to do. You will not know which state board to apply with, but that's EduMont's job. We'll assign the state board to you, we'll tell you which state board to apply with, and we'll tell you the process to apply with it. And our team is capable and has the ability to actually screen share with you and show you how to fill in the form also. So it's not a big deal at all. कौन से document लगेंगे, क्या करना है, कैसे करना है, the whole thing will be explained. Now, when you're done with applying for candidature, your next job is to actually go and schedule each of the CPA exams and pass them one after the other, which again is something you'll need help with. Which exam to schedule when, and am I going to pass this exam? Is my preparation checked? Have I been approved? And then applying for your CPA license. That's step 5. You got to apply for your license. लाइसेंस को अप्लाई करने के लिए you'll also need 1 year of work experience. वो वर्क एक्सपीरियंस वेरीफाई करने के लिए, बाय द वे, इट डजंट मैटर इफ इट्स प्री और पोस्ट क्वालिफिकेशन, फर्क नहीं पड़ता उससे. 1 year का वर्क एक्सपीरियंस, जी बात खत्म. कब का है उससे भी फर्क नहीं पड़ता. पहले का ही होगा ऑब्वियसली, फ्यूचर का तो होगा नहीं, बट कब का है इससे फर्क नहीं पड़ता है. बट उसमें वैल्यू ऐड तब होती है, या वो एक्सेप्टेबल तब हो जाता है 1 year वर्क एक्सपीरियंस, जब उस पर कोई CPA वेरीफाई करके अपना साइन और लाइसेंस नंबर छोड़ देता है. Now that's not the challenge. When you go to an institute where the co-founder is not a CPA, the main faculty is not a CPA, and ऐसे institutes भी हैं, वो लोअर प्राइस पे प्रोडक्ट उनको बेचना पड़ता है, वो बेचते हैं और कई लोग खरीदते भी हैं. सस्ते के पीछे दुनिया दीवानी है. बट द थिंग इज, CPA बन तो जाओगे, 4 एग्जाम तो पार कर जाओगे शायद, उसके बाद लाइसेंस वेरीफाई कौन करेगा? तो अगेन देयर आई कैन हेल्प यू, बिकॉज my sign and my license is valid in all 55 states. So once I verify your states नहीं, 55 state boards, 50 states हैं, 5 territories हैं. तो 55 state boards में मेरा license, मेरा sign चलता है. I have to sign off on your work experience and that's it. No problem. Acceptable. Now with that being said, after you've gotten your license, you are, congratulations, a full on CPA. अब जो आपने डिग्री करी है उसका फ़ायदा आपको चाहिए होगा. Do you want to get placed? That's where step 6 comes along, where you're going to go for placement, where again we will be in a position to help you in each one of these 6 steps. We will help you. Here's how we tackle placements here at EduMont. What we do is, number 1, we'll get your CV prepared as per the new ATS standards, so that you're in a position to actually be reachable. क्योंकि a lot of people still have the misconception कि यार CV में तो डिज़ाइन अच्छा होना चाहिए. ऐसा नहीं होता. CV में कीवर्ड सही होने चाहिए, क्योंकि अब HR नहीं पढ़ते हैं CV, अब सिस्टम ऑटोमेटिकली पढ़ता है. तो it's more about sorting of hats. So that's number 1 what we'll do. Make sure your CV is updated the right way. Number 2, we'll identify the jobs that are available in the market. Our BD team does that. Our HR team assists in that. And we're connected with HRs across India. And it's not a hard or difficult connection to make. We don't even charge any commission from any company. So it's virtually free even for the company, as it is for you. So no problems at all. We'll find and identify the jobs. We'll tell you भाई ये ओपनिंग आ रखी है, ज़ेनवर्क की आ रखी है, अभी पीछे मेरे को नहीं पता था, PwC की आ रखी है, डेलॉयट की आ रखी है, वगैरह वगैरह. ये ओपनिंग्स हैं. आप कौन सी में अप्लाई करना चाहते हो? आप जो सिलेक्ट करोगे उन पे अप्लाई कर देंगे. Then comes along step 3, getting a referral. Now you name a company in India where a CPA wants to work, because we are now 4 years old. We've got thousands of students across India. We are in a position where we can get you a referral from either an alumni or an existing student at virtually every company in India that hires a CPA. That's the third thing in your third nail in the coffin. ये पक्का हो गया तो सेट हो गया. Now you're in a position where you have applied for a job with a referral with the right CV, and you gotta go give the interview. If you clear the interview, congratulations, the job is yours. And if you don't clear the interview, don't worry, come back to us. We'll prep you. We'll talk about what went wrong in the last interview. We'll tell you how to improve that, and we'll get you to reapply in the next job, in the next opening. That's simple. But there's one thing that we will not do here at EduMont. वो हम नहीं कर पाएंगे. क्या? हम ये नहीं कह पाएंगे आपको कि प्लेसमेंट की गारंटी है. I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to do that. Because after giving my TED talk and talking about the fact that EdTech is smeared by marketing and is polluted by marketing, I can't go out and do the same. So I'm one of those people who's going to tell you upfront कि बस ये नहीं हो पाएगा मुझसे कि मैं गारंटी बोल दूं आपसे. क्योंकि क्या है ना, कुछ इंस्टीट्यूट्स हैं जो जॉब गारंटी बोल रही हैं. अब उनसे पूछो आपने गारंटी कहा है, तो अब KPMG में मान लो आपने मेरी इंटरव्यू करवाई, या EY में आपने मेरी इंटरव्यू करवाई, और वो इंटरव्यू में मेरे को रिजेक्ट कर दिया किसी ने, तो वट एवर रीज़न हो जाता ना, इंटरव्यू में आदमी रिजेक्ट हो जाता. तो फिर आपके पास कोई जादू की झड़ी है, कोई जुगाड़ है, कोई बंदूक है जो दिखाकर आप KPMG में या EY में मेरी नौकरी लगवाई दोगे? तो वहाँ का काउंसलर आपसे क्या कहेगा? वो हंस के कहेगा नहीं ऐसा नहीं होता, बट बहुत जॉब्स है ना मार्केट में, कहीं ना कहीं लग जाएगी. तो यार अगर कहीं ना कहीं लग जाएगी जॉब, अगर ये बात है, तो बस वो उसको गारंटी नहीं बोलते हैं, उसको अश्योरेंस बोलते हैं. और ये अश्योरेंस आपको प्रोफेशनल डिग्री करने के बाद मिलती ही है. जैसे आप CA करने के बाद अश्योर हो जाते हो कि यार मैं भूखा तो नहीं मरूंगा, काम तो मिल जाएगा। डॉक्टर बनने के बाद आप अश्योर हो जाते हो यार अपन को कुछ ना कुछ करने को मिल जाएगा, है ना? दैट सॉर्ट ऑफ थिंग, सेम थिंग हियर, वी कैन sort of assure you that there is a placement at the end of the journey, right? And in most cases it will result in a better pay rate. That's the idea. Okay, that being said, let's move on to the next slide. Talk about one more hiccup that could stop you from becoming a CPA: eligibility. But let me tell you, it's only a hiccup if you want it to be. Because if you're determined to be a CPA, then even the eligibility conditions can be met. I'll tell you first what they are, and then I'll tell you how they can be met. And then I'll tell you a solution that allows you to check your eligibility with certainty. Just give me a second while I get some water, please. First things first, to become eligible for the exam, you need 120 credits. To become eligible for the license, you need 150 credits. And what is this credit? A credit is something you get after passing a subject. So each subject that you pass at a university level can give you 2.5 to 3 credits to 4 credits. So usually you will find in graduation it's 2.5 to 3 credits. That's the range. And upper level credits are credits you earn in your third year or you earn in your post grad, which can have more value, which can give you about 4.5 to 5 credits. अब क्या होता है कि most people will get really confused by this, and actually अभी तो confusion शुरू भी नहीं करी, because US में there are 50 states, 5 territories, and each one of these state boards of accounting 55 के 55 के अपने अपने कुछ rules हैं. So it is complicated. But with that being said, I've found a way to simplify it for you. Number one, every year of university education roughly gives you 30 credits. तो अगर आपके पास ग्रेजुएशन है प्लस उसके ऊपर MBA है, तो यू कैन से यू हैव 150 क्रेडिट्स, क्योंकि आपने 5 साल यूनिवर्सिटी में पढ़ाई करी है, 3 साल ग्रेड में, 2 साल पोस्ट ग्रेड में, तो आपके पास 5 into 30 150 क्रेडिट्स है. दैट बीइंग सेड, इफ यू आर समबडी who's qualified as CA or a CS, so even you would be given 60 credits for qualifying your CA or your CS, for qualifying it. And plus with your grad you've got 90 more credits, so you've got 150. So you are actually in a better spot. Wonderful. If you've got a CA inter only or a CS inter only or a ICWA inter, तो inter qualify करने के 30 credits होते हैं. Similarly, if you've got a 1-year PG diploma instead of a 2-year post grad, no problem. Even that has 30 credits when you complete it. So 90 for your grad plus 30 on top of it gives you 120 credits, so you are also eligible. प्रॉब्लम आती है उनको जो सिर्फ ग्रेड होते हैं, सिर्फ ग्रेजुएशन कर रखी है. दे वुड से यार हमने 3 साल की ग्रेजुएशन करी है, हमारे तो 90 क्रेडिट्स ही बनेंगे. And you're probably going to be worried that you're not eligible. But here's the deal: if you come from a commerce background, there's an exception rule that actually is designed for you. वो रूल ये कहता है, if you have 8 plus accounting, business and economics ABE credits, accounting, business, economics, अगर 8 plus ABE credits हैं आपके पास, then even with 90 credits we will consider it 120 and consider you eligible. अकाउंटिंग, बिजनेस और इकोनॉमिक्स के 8 प्लस एब क्रेडिट्स कहाँ से आएंगे, कैसे आएंगे, ये थोड़ा डिटेल्ड का काम है. ये मैं आपको 1 घंटे के सेशन में नहीं समझ, क्योंकि इसमें रूल्स हैं. बट वॉट यू कैन डू इज यू कैन गेट योर एलिजिबिलिटी चेक्ड, एंड इफ यू आर फाउंड नॉट एलिजिबल यू विल बी प्रेजेंटेड विद अ सोल्यूशन. द सोल्यूशन इज वेरी सिंपल. इफ यू डोंट हैव द फुल क्रेडिट्स, इफ यू डोंट हैव द एब क्रेडिट्स, यू डोंट हैव 120 क्रेडिट्स, तो चिंता की बात नहीं है. Because there are courses out there in the market called bridge courses that you can attain, enroll in, and without completing the course you can attach the credits, the future credits, today by giving a promise to the state board कि यार हम ये जो extra credits हैं within 18 months of passing our first CPA exam उस ड्यूरेशन में पूरे कर देंगे. तो मान लो आपने 3 से 4 महीने लगा के पहला एग्जाम दिया है, तो 3-4 महीने ये और उसके बाद 18 महीने और, तो ऑलमोस्ट 2 years का टाइम है टू कंप्लीट अ 1-year क्वालिफिकेशन. दैट्स व्हाट अ ब्रिज कोर्स इज. नाउ विद दैट बीइंग सेड, लेट्स आल्सो टॉक अबाउट द फैक्ट that if you want to get your eligibility checked and you want to find out exactly where you are, 120 पे हो, 150 पे हो, या ब्रिज कोर्स की ज़रूरत पड़ेगी आपको to get to 120 150, in that case send a copy of your mark sheets to academics@edumontclasses.com. ये हिमांशु ने डाल दिया chat. academics@edumontclasses.com. Just send a copy of your mark sheets. And I'm not even saying I want a full-on scanned copy. Click a photo of it from your phone, send it. That's simple. When you send us a copy of your mark sheets, we're able to understand which university you have, which subjects you had, which degree this is, what weightage this is. Sorry. And based on that, we're able to calculate your credits and do a preliminary check. Now, if you were to go and get the eligibility checked at one of our local competitors, they'll be able to deliver in 20 minutes. 20 minutes में आ जाएगी आपकी eligibility. But if you get it checked with us, you'll have to wait 24 hours. 24 घंटे minimum लगेंगे हमें. And there's a good reason for that. We're not getting your eligibility checked locally here in India. वो तो मैं भी कर सकता हूँ. What we're doing actually is, because we're a UWorld partner, we've got a team in the US as well, and we get our eligibility checked from them. Those are the guys who are actually at ground zero. They are in Nashville. They're right across the NASBA building, and they actually know on ground क्या situation. So they have the best information. So it takes a little bit of time, but when you get our eligibility, you can be certain that it is the best eligibility you will ever get in the entire Asia Pacific. That's it. That being said, if you're interested, do feel free to send your mark sheets. Now, next, let's also talk about, next slide पे आ जाओ, the last thing that needs to be discussed, which is fees कितनी लगती है, right? So if you look at the exam fees and the exam expenses, the total is about 2,52,000. So 53 मान लो यार आप, but 2.5 लाख के करीब लगेगा. This is just the exam fees. Now, with that being said, if you look at how this is distributed, there are some one-time costs and then there are per exam costs. One-time costs are about 40,000 rupees. These include your evaluation, SBA registration, NTS application. ये fees, ये one-time fees होती है. तो 40,000 के आसपास के खर्चा है. और बचा जो खर्चा है 2,11,000 के करीब, वो खर्चा है एग्जाम्स का. वो कैसे है? पर एग्जाम की जो कॉस्ट है अबाउट 53,000 per exam cost, which includes only two things basically: exam ki fees and international testing fee, which is about 53,000 rupees per exam. So 53 into 4 gives you about 2,11,000 roughly, and total kharcha 2.5 lakh. Now, the reason why we keep stressing on become a CPA in one attempt, why is that our business promise? Is because every time you fail an exam, you lose 53,000 rupees. That's simple. This is why we are focused not on local materials, but on imported UWorld AICP approved materials. There may be a slight amount, 10,000 more expensive. Effectively 10,000 का फर्क है, बट वो 10,000 बचाने के लिए लोग घटिया मटेरियल ले लेते हैं. ये भूल जाते हैं कि 55,000 के करीब का एग्जाम एक है. So don't be penny wise and pound foolish when you're selecting which outfit to go with, which study material to choose. Choose the best. Don't settle for anything. Let's move on to the next slide, because each exam is pretty expensive. Okay, with that being said, if you were to go and buy the UWorld study material directly through their website here in India, at a discount, they would be offering it to you for $2,499, मतलब $2,500 के करीब, which, in the next slide, is actually about 2 lakhs when converted. तो 2 लाख रुपए का वो स्टडी मटेरियल है और 2.5 लाख रुपए का खर्चा हो रहा है, but which makes it pretty expensive. But thanks to the way EduMont is set up, the way our business is set up, we're actually able to provide you a massive discount. Like usually we have a standard price of 1,09,000 for to give a phone call and find out. That's a usual price. But for our webinars, we reserve special price. And for our webinar here, we're able to provide a 50% discount by bringing a cost down to 99,000. Plus, on top of this, as a value add, you also get EduMont coaching, EduMont books, EduMont LMS. And you get evaluation, license assistance, placement assistance, all the assistances you need. all included and built into this one price of 99. So I think it's phenomenal value that we're offering to you. That being said, on to the next slide. Let's open up for Q&A. अगर आपका कोई भी सवाल है आप मेरे से पूछ सकते हैं. And if you're interested in reaching out to us, एक तो पोल है, रिलीज कर दो यार फटाफट से. Exit poll में you can let us know if you're interested in reaching out to us, if you're interested in availing the discount. Again, this is a special webinar only pricing. You can pay us anytime in the week and you can let us know that you're interested in availing this discount by answering the questions right there. And in addition to that, as promised, of all the people that have stayed back, we will be sending you a PDF on 5 steps that you need to take to study and pass the CPA exam in one attempt.